Our country spent $22 trillion on trying to reduce poverty in the past 40 years, yet poverty hasn't changed. Our country spent $358 billion a year on charity, yet poverty hasn't changed in the past 40 years. How can we spend so much time, so much energy, so much resources, yet poverty is the same in 2013 as it was in 1973? We tackle poverty in the same way that we tackle friendships. We tend to give our time and money to things that we're passionate about, people that we've shared experiences with, and things that our friends care about. We tend to give our time and money to people that look like us, people with the same political and religious beliefs. But just because we share something in common with someone doesn't necessarily mean that it will lead to less poverty. I want you to think back to the last time that you gave money to something that you had no personal connection to. Something where you saw the data, you looked at the impact, and then you gave money. It just doesn't happen. We're conditioned to think that people will escape poverty in the same way we have achieved success. But there's no evidence to show that. And if we actually want to tackle poverty, we have to focus on what causes it in the first place, which is a lack of wealth. Right now in this country, we focus on 4 things typically to tackle poverty. We look at education, crime, health, housing, and sometimes transportation. But all of those things have one thing in common. They're affected by a lack of wealth. And there will always be pervasive differences in all of these fields until we tackle the wealth gap. Wealthy people will always want better schools for their kids. Wealthy people always want better homes. Wealthy people always want better health systems. It's part of human nature. Access to quality is directly tied to access to wealth. Now, when we think about this problem on a larger scale, right now in this country, the average white family has $116,000 in wealth. The average Black or Latinx family has $1,700 in wealth. Black and Latinx families with one college graduate only own 20% of the wealth that a white family with one college graduate has. Furthermore, Black and Latinx families with one college graduate still own less wealth than a white family with no college graduates. We can't solve education until we solve the racial wealth gap. We can't solve housing until we solve the racial wealth gap. We can't solve many of our health crises in this country until we solve the racial wealth gap. Now, there's a couple theories about how to do this. Some people say we need better paying jobs. Some people say we need more college graduates. Some people say we need better housing systems. But my rebuttal to that is, if those strategies worked, why wouldn't we have seen a change in the past 40 years? If those strategies were effective, why would Black and Latinx families with college graduates only own 20% of the wealth that a white family with an equivalent amount of college graduates have? Why would our housing system be the most segregated it has ever been in this country? So, I think the data shows that the way to tackle this problem is creating scalable businesses led by people of color. If we can have businesses that scale to the rate of an Amazon or FedEx or Google or Ford or General Motors, it will create ripple effects in the economy. Furthermore, it changes how people are paid, it changes how jobs are set up, and it changes how opportunities are presented. According to the Kellogg Foundation, a Black business owner, on average, will have 12 times the net worth of a Black non-business owner over the course of their life. Furthermore, the wealth gap, just by being a business owner, can be reduced from a factor of 13 to a factor of 3 by just becoming a business owner. And according to the Kellogg Foundation, if we just invested in 15% of Black and Latinx businesses and got them to add just one employee, we could pump $55 billion into the economy and reduce the Black and Latinx unemployment rate to just 3% in this country. Now, you're probably wondering, what is my connection to this whole issue? And I used to be a teacher. I taught at a school that was one of the top 5% in the state in terms of growth. And I saw firsthand that just because you have a great teacher, and just because you have a great school, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be less poverty. Our best charter and public schools in the country are getting only 40% of kids out of extreme poverty. Our best colleges, according to Ross Shetty and leading economists at MIT and Stanford, our best colleges are only getting 5% of kids from the bottom 20% to the top 20% income by the age of 35. I created Let's Innovate Through Education, or LITE Memphis, because I wanted to equip our students with 21st century skills to create wealth. And the way we were going to do that is we were going to train them for 8 years, from age 17 to age 25, so they could do 3 things. First, learn how to be entrepreneurs by launching businesses in high school. through a 6-month entrepreneurial program. Second, matching them with paid internships while they're in college so they can get access to networks and access to opportunities. And then third, actually giving them one-on-one coaching and capital to launch those businesses. Now, our vision is to close the racial wealth gap through empowering a generation of entrepreneurs of color. Our results have been pretty incredible. Up to this point, 85% of our students are on track to graduate college within 4 years. Our students' projects have impacted over 100,000 people in the community. Over 90% of our students have shown proficiency in entrepreneurial skills. Forbes Magazine has named us one of the 20 ideas that can change the world. Teach for America has named us one of the 5 most innovative ideas in education. Every day I get asked these questions. Are 20-year-old Black and Latinx kids really ready to start businesses? Don't they need 10 more years of experience? Isn't that a risky investment? And while those statements may or may not be true, when a 20-year-old white kid from Harvard or Stanford drops out and starts a tech business, we throw $100 million at it. When a 24-year-old white guy with no background in tech starts up a tech platform, we say, hey, it's okay that you haven't been profitable for 5 years. You'll figure it out. We have a double standard in this country about what it takes to create wealth and how risky we are willing to be with our investments when we make them in businesses. So what I think I want to leave you with is that right now, when you type in famous entrepreneurs, this is what pops up. And it isn't because Black women and Latinx founders aren't amazing. It's because of the standards that we're setting. Right now, only 20 Black women have ever raised over $1 million in venture capital. Only 20. And that isn't because they don't have great ideas. It's not because they don't have great businesses. It's not because they're not great entrepreneurs. It's because people aren't even giving them the chance to pitch and have those opportunities to access capital. So what I want to leave you with is why? Why do we wake up every day and mentor? Why do we wake up every day and teach? Why do we give money to where we give? Do we do it because it makes us feel good? Do we do it because that's the way we've always done things, or do we do it because we empirically know that it will reduce poverty? Because at the end of the day, if our systems aren't leading to less poverty, then why are we doing them in the first place? The goal of this talk is not for a white guy like me to come in and save Black or Latinx communities. The goal of this talk is not for white people to come in and save Black or Latinx communities. The goal of this talk is to challenge the way we think about poverty and then empower entrepreneurs of color and leaders of color with the resources they need by giving them access to the same opportunities that any other person would have. At the end of the day, poverty will not change until we challenge our fundamental notions of what it takes to fix it. And the quote that I always kind of stand by is, the impossible is only possible when you're crazy enough to dream it.